This is Ready, Set, Reiki, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide rather than host, as I too am traveling, learning, and supporting others on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy Seawright, and this is Ready, Set, Reiki. Hello, everyone. Reiki blessings to you, one and all, my Reiki family. Another amazing journey. Before we begin, I always like to give a little shout out to a Facebook group. Now, this is the Reiki Business Collective, where you share, support, and serve. Now, don't you let that business name fool you. Anyone can be a part of this group, no matter where you are on your journey. Maybe you have just become a practitioner. Maybe you're dreaming about a business. Maybe you're in the middle of that journey. So wherever you are, here is a safe place for you to land. I want you to know, as you are learning, as you are growing in the system of Reiki that you're studying and any type of energy work that you're doing, that there are safe places for you to land. People who are supportive, and including myself, who I consider myself as a way shower to show you things and show you that there are good people in the world that are here to support you, because when one of us wins, we all win. Now, back to our guest. Now, today I have a guest, Safra Turner. Now, she is the founder of iHolistica Institute for Holistic Health and Advanced Energetica. Now, she has nearly 3 decades of experience in holistic healing, emotional transformation, and advanced energetics. Now, Safra helps individuals reclaim their sovereignty, access their innate healing capacity, and awaken perceptions through practical tools grounded in universal law, base 10, base 12 consciousness, and integrative natural therapies. So let's give a warm Ready, Set, Reiki. Welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey. I cannot wait to hear about your work. So let's get started. I told the listener just a little bit about you, but I know there's a whole bunch more. 3 decades in this business. Hallelujah. It's wonderful. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Well, thank you for the intro. That is just so exciting. You got my energy flying with that. That's fantastic. And I really appreciate you having me as well. Thank you so much for that. So I'm Safra. I've been healing, like she said, for 30 years, like you said, for 30 years now. And it's been a very interesting journey because I have actually lived, you could say, a very parallel life experience where not only have I been healing, I actually attuned to Reiki when I was 18 years old as a frontline soldier in the IDF. And so that kind of states the beginning of what you could say was like a parallel life of living within you could say the practical, realistic, this is the way life is supposed to be reality, and living within the spirit and existing within spirit. And it was past that I was never truly able to connect. And I tried. Trust you me, I tried. So a little bit of background. When I was 17 years old, I moved over to Israel alone by myself, didn't speak the language. And I found myself opening up where I considered myself, I grew up Jewish, but I consider myself an atheist. I had uncovered a book called Seth Speaks. And this book it's a channeling book from the 70s, some Jane Roberts, a whole series of it. I read that book and I was like, wow, something interesting in the universe that I don't know about exists. And one of the things it talked about in there was that you can see energy. And I was just like, if you can see energy, maybe there's more to this, universe than what I actually thought possible. At 17 years old, I learned how to see energy. I learned how to see energy on my hands. I learned how to see it on the Carmel Mountain behind my home. I learned how to see it on leaves at night. And from there began a journey that has never ended. So like I said, at 18 years old, I connected into Reiki. I became attuned to level 1 and 2, started it on humans. First human I ever did it on said that didn't do anything for me. Didn't touch it for years on humans. And I worked only on animals. Always, always, always to powerful and positive results. My story basically goes that I came in here with, you could call it a life mission. And my mission, which I actually have here, right up here, is be the change you wish to see in the world. I came in here as a child with, I'm going to save the world. As I grew older and older and older, that became something where I began to have to formulate, what does that mean to save the world? Because you can't just like, what am I, Superman? It doesn't work that way. And I realized that the concept of planting a seed and a ripple makes a wave is the way that you can have the highest impact on those around you and the world in itself. I truly believed that my life had to be dedicated to being that change that I wish to see in the world. And I did not believe that it was possible to do through following the spiritual path, which I, at that point, considered to be the service to self or helping myself to grow, not necessarily helping the world. And so what I did is I went into the way that I knew best to make a positive impact in the world and help the world. First, I joined the IDF Frontline Soldier, one of the first female frontline soldier combat soldiers in Israel at that time. And then I quickly moved into studying international relations, counterterrorism, policy, negotiation strategy, so that I could go into supporting our collective through the structures that are already in place, which I believed then was the way to go, through governance, through policy, and through non-governmental organizations. And so I dedicated my life to being that difference through these manners. I interned and worked at a number of policy think tanks for counterterrorism and global policy, rubbed shoulders with global leaders around the world, like as if it was just like, normal stuff, was the heartbeat, was like within the heartbeat of the counterterrorism world. This is right post 9/11. So it's a time when there was a lot of flourishing in that arena. And I thought I was making a huge difference. I really believed in the work that I was doing. At the same time, that spiritual niggle within myself had me studying Buddhism, had me, I remember doing an independent study in college with a professor, because you can't learn some of this stuff in school. And the independent study was, Safra, here's your goal. You are going to sit in meditation and count to 10 forward and backwards by the end of this semester, and you pass. I was like, okay, no problem. By the end of the semester, I still couldn't do it. But what it did was it taught me the depth of that bringing yourself into present. I studied Zen Buddhism. I studied Tibetan Buddhism. I learned Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine. Just everything I could reach my hands into. I, of course, earth-based traditions and cultures. I traveled the world. I'm connecting to different places around the world. I walked the Camino de Santiago in order to truly, connect to that oneness and self. And I remember in that journey, for example, expecting to find, the moment, and it never came. What did come was the trust. There was no direction I could turn, which was the wrong direction. I always ended up where it was that I was meant to go, no matter what happened. These experiences were super parallel in a life where all I wanted to do was be the change I wish to see in the world. So I stayed in the policy and counterterrorism arenas for a number of years, ended up being an executive director of an international organization, loved what I did, got to the point where I was shut out. Overqualified was the term that was pretty much given to me in every single interview for 5 years straight. And it was a break moment for me where doing what I think I needed to do to be the difference in the world, I was not allowed to do that. Why? What's going on? Soon afterwards, we moved to the United States, and we had a small child. And that child, first year in kindergarten, did not work. We saw a depressed kindergartner where no child should be depressed. And we learned a lot about health coming from healthy other countries into, I don't think Americans see how unhealthy they are. But coming from the outside, you see it immediately. It took us less than a week to realize something was really, really off. And it started a journey of both. I realized that we needed to homeschool our child. We couldn't keep our child in the public school system. His teacher, who was being forced into retirement that year, actually told us, if you're going to save your child, homeschool your child. And you're like, okay, done. And so in that year, I also decided it's time to go into the spiritual business. And I call it business. So I went into coaching and healing. I took my Reiki skills and I began to heal. I started with mothers dealing with anxieties and the overwhelm, and it very quickly expanded into healing individuals across the gamut. And in that period came accelerated emotional healing. This to understand the background, I come from a family of therapists. So I already have, I used to go and sit with my father and in his sessions, and he used to work with a lot of inmates, for example, a lot of so it was real interesting to learn, the tough therapies. And I was able to come to an understanding and awareness that we were able to support individuals into their healing process without the years and years of therapy. Rather, we could take a couple of weeks, get to a core, understand what's going on, see how their core is actually lending into your life mission, how these triggers, how these difficulties actually support you into your power if you so choose to accept it, and then finding your path and then growing into your power of self. That became fairly wildly successful. And as I was working in this arena, I was also expanding my energetic healing abilities. I studied under Mujin Choi and was attuned into the blue beings. What would you call that? Blu-ray, I guess you would call that.
Yeah.
Yes. And very, very soon after, my abilities just went. I would have people I would work on one session, all of a sudden they would go in and find out that there were no tumors. I would have people that, could not walk and all of a sudden could walk. And it became the norm. And for me, and this I think is for the audience as well, what I learned in those moments is to stop trying and start being. Instead of trying to heal a person, which is what I did up until then, right? Mm-hmm. Watch me as I do Reiki on you. Watch me as I work on you, right? Yeah. It became something where as the vessel, the energy is going to work. And it's not a question of if, it's how and what it's going, and that was it. And that knowing led me into the ability to be able to do what people would look at and say are really miraculous. To me, we've just learned how to utilize the energies, the ether, and the law of oneness of our universe in order to connect into and support others. Long story short, I had a great business going for a number of years. My healing abilities expanded tremendously. And then COVID hit, and they went after the healers. They went after those of us that were able to support individuals through it and this was before their way of healing it. And they shut down my Facebook group. My internet website was shut down. I was deleted completely from the internet. All that was left was one or two videos that kind of made me look crazy because there was no connection. And so I'm having, a conversation. I was like, I can't talk to you, that was all they would leave. So it was a period of darkness as I had to walk a dark night.
Yeah.
During those moments, I had just begun to awaken to universal law, and not universal law as what they teach you in the woo-woo world of law of manifestation, and then a very superficial level of law, right? Yeah. For the record, start where you are. I started learning manifestation through The Secret, the book, The Secret, and thank goodness for that. So, but at this point, I'm in a deeper place in the law of correspondence and et cetera. And I began to realize that this system that we have over us that we believe to be true is actually artificial. Mm-hmm. And in those moments, as I began to connect the dots, I also began to deal with extreme suppression and extreme censorship. And I couldn't understand what I had done wrong. I'm just who am I? What on earth is going on? The censorship never stopped, but I learned to navigate. The suppression never stopped, but I figured out how to work under the radar. And the institute that we have created today is actually an outcome of learning how to work under the radar and work through utilizing law they had to follow their own rules, basically. They have to allow freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of religion. So it's very, very interesting how it played out. But those 5 years, I was alone and lonely. And it was the first time in my life that I learned what it was to be lonely. Even moving to a country by myself, not speaking the language, I was fine. And those years, instead of just staying in a corner like that, oh my gosh, I don't lay down. I started learning. I started researching. I started studying. Why am I being attacked? What is really going on in the world? And I began to dive deep into universal law, natural law, and law of one. And it has become something where previous to the censorship and the shutdown, it was something where I knew about, right? And I talked about the law of correspondence. I talked about, dualistic universe, but it hadn't kind of settled in. But law of one, which is what really got me in trouble without me knowing that was what was getting me in trouble, It was all about you and me and that tree and that light and that wall behind me and that other planet and that sun. We are one. We are all of source, fractals of source, and we are source experiencing self on the physical plane, and we all go back to source. You know this. That's awesome, right? Right. And teaching that in a world where they are working really hard to create division, divide and conquer, right? Keep us separated from self and separated from one another. Big no-no. That turned out the reason that I had to deal with all of this oppression. That turned out the reason why. As I learned to conceptualize it, and as I went deeper and deeper into it, it became everything. Where in the past, I used to think of natural law as a support for my healing work, or universal law is like, it's there and it's there. But all of a sudden, I began to understand that the artificial systems that we're living within have taken out natural law and just kind of slightly manipulated our minds to believe that it's real. But rather what they have done is they have given us these artificial institutions, such as, let's say a governance, financial systems, right? Systems that are man-made, legal or law system, man-made, and then said, this is real. But once you connect and recognize and become aware of law of one and universal law, all of a sudden, all of that illusion falls away. And so that is where I have been focusing my energy over the past.
Right. In efforts to save the world, right? I mean, this is just a true testimony of how this work is a journey, right? And all the things that you've done. And many people don't realize it's also that cumulative thing as well. I mean, you're out there trying things and seeing, I call it, and it may be the kindergarten teacher in me, but find your Goldilocks, find what's working for you to help you navigate. And all of these experiences helping you to trust, helping you to do those twists and turns so that you could come into your true purpose. And Reiki, even though it was in the beginning, it was instrumental in helping you kind of give you that nudge so that you're doing the work that you're meant to be doing today. And I think you hit it on the nail on the head when you said about just the being. I remember as a young Reiki practitioner, I'm just like, come on, I'm open for business. And you're looking everywhere and you're advertising. And I had shared with you about, my experience about needing some time off and then like closing my schedule down for in person, and I'm getting phone calls and I'm getting text messages. I'm not seeing anything on your schedule, and I'm having to refer things to graduates. I'm like, where are people coming from? How are they finding me now? I just think it's so comical that the jobs are arriving when it's like, I have to say no. So it's quite interesting how this all kind of plays out with it. And, your experience with your child with school, I know as a teacher, it's just, I stepped out about 4 years ago out of working in districts and coming from Pennsylvania to Texas. And as I was starting to teach yoga classes, I would get a lot of the teachers, and it was just heartbreaking to hear these stories. And I mean, I don't think 40 and 50 is very old, but when you're being pushed into retirement at that age, and even when I was kind of in the midst of teaching, I felt like, wow, this is really not about the kids anymore. It's about the test scores and all these other things and all these things they put on the teacher. And then we can get to the lesson plan, and then we can get to the front of the room to teach. And how can you be this positive, jolly person doing circle time when you have all these other things on your back with it? So, yeah, it's really different. And especially since COVID, I remember it was around probably, I would say like 2014 when I started to see like the 18-month-olds come in with iPads. And I'm like, oh, we're really heading down a wrong road here. But here you are, ready to change the world. When I was born as well, I felt like the heart of a teacher, that I was supposed to do something. And I remember seeing this little plaque, and it was hard to find things then that had the name Tracy on it that was spelled correctly. It always had TRACEY or a different version of it. And it said that I was a diligent harvester, and that always stuck with me. Diligent harvester of planting the seeds. And so it sounds like this is what you're doing as well with your work. So we hear when the Reiki energy came into your life when you were 18. You've been working with this energy for 3 decades. As you've been learning and growing in your own modality, what are some misconceptions that you hear from people about energy work?
Well, I would say I'm going to take out the hear from people and more apply that question to the ego mind.
Okay.
One of the things that I find fascinating, and again, you said it, and I said it, I've been healing for 30 years. I have seen thousands and thousands of individuals come in and out of my sphere when it comes to healing and healing work. The ones that heal are the ones that want to heal. And what I have found is that oftentimes individuals will come in not wanting to heal, wanting to be fixed.
Mm.
And so they come in with an expectation they're going to be fixed. And then they either, when they become aware of the fact they can actually heal, they will turn around and run. The reason being, because unfortunately, in this matrix system that we're a part of, this artificial system, we are conditioned to believe that we need to rely on external validation and externalities, and so we externalize our responsibility to another. I'm sick. Now I can use that crutch to get help, to get support, to get people to love me, to be comforted. I can't do this because of that. I was injured by that, and so it's that's fault. And rather than turning within. So the misconception is not about the energy. The energy work works for those that are ready to heal. And I have seen myself through my own work, both energetic as well as physical therapeutic, because I'm also a naturopath. I have seen what others would consider miracles. The misconception, I would say, is that people come in saying, you're selling snake oil. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Don't take it. That's fine. That's your choice. My choice is to support individuals through their cancer journeys or what they are told is end of life and bring them back to living again and healthy again. Your choice is whether you're going to choose to heal or you're going to choose to have something to blame. And so that is where I would put the misconception. Most people say they want to heal, but are not quite yet ready to. When they are, we're here for you.
Right. When I got injured, doing the Reiki, all the modalities, and I could feel no pain. And I was moving a little bit, limited mobility. I went to, I believe, trusted energy workers that I've gotten to know really well. And I really believed that helped me with having a positive attitude, getting my nervous system ready. And, the injury ended up being bone on bone, spurs around it with my hip. And I knew that, okay, there's a purpose to this that needs to be done. So I knew I needed to have the surgery, but I also knew that having the surgery would really deeply change me as a person. And so doing the work, doing the internal work, I would not have been ready to do this 4 years ago. And I went in with such a positive mindset to this that a couple of days before the surgery, I had a friend and she did all of her energy work on me. And one of the abilities I do have is seeing things through dreams, astral projecting. And my sister had passed 6 years ago. And while she was working on me, she goes, I heard her say, I see you traveling. I see you traveling. And there was my sister next to me, and we were in the operating room, and I was seeing my surgeon operate on me, but he was transparent and he was super fast. And then all of a sudden, my sister in the vision pushed me back into my body. I looked and I saw her, and she waved goodbye, and they were pushing me out of the OR. And when I had my surgery, I'm getting ready, and there was just no fear. I saw my doctor. I felt so calm and so at peace. And I went back. And when I came out of surgery, my husband's in medicine. And so when he came to see me, he said, wow, he's fantastic. This was supposed to be an hour and 50 minutes. It was 45 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was absolutely instrumental about my healing. I mean, I was nailing it on physical therapy. I didn't have to take the pain medication. I just was taking Tylenol, and it was so instrumental in helping me on all levels with that. And I have seen miracles. I've worked with, and I had someone that had a tumor and it was gone. So it's had miraculous things. But in my case, I think because it was the bone on bone, but it helped me in other ways too.
Absolutely.
So you have to look also beyond too, that like the emotional needed help, the nervous system needed help, all of these things, working together. And so that's a misconception too about people. And as you're right, wanting that quick fix, just give me a pill, give me a shot. I just don't want to put the work in. You have to put the work in. I have to put the physical therapy in to get the legs stronger,
and you have to give yours. So if you're talking about misconceptions, it's also the worthiness aspect. You have to love yourself enough to allow yourself to feel what you're talking about. I'm a strong pre-COVID specifically. I was a very strong believer in the balance between the systems. Now, of course, the suppression and the censorship certainly opened my eyes to things that I had not previously seen, and definitely shifted my perspective. But, however here, there is a place for everything. If my arm gets chopped off, I'm going to the emergency room.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that said, if there's something I can do at home, I've got a curio of hundreds of therapeutics right behind this camera, of half of them are things that I've foraged and prepared myself from outside of our home. There's a place for everything. And the other aspect of it, and you touched on this, I think this is so essential. If I'm dealing with, I don't know what, a liver condition, right? So that's the physical manifestation of an emotional and energetic aspect of a distortion. I can heal the liver starting on the physical, or I can heal the liver starting on the energetic, or I can heal the liver starting on the emotional. Whichever area that you begin to work on, it's going to ripple out into those other areas as well. So when you're healing or working on one area, you're actually working on all aspects of self. So while you were working at the same time on healing your hip by going in and doing this surgery, which I'm sure is superbly supported you, at the same time, you were able to energetically realign, the energetic aspect and the emotional aspect of self, so that your body was in a comprehensive space of you could almost say that the wholeness of the healing process.
Yeah.
It's essential. It's essential.
Right. And many who I've spoken to, who are in this business, they said, well, you came to El Paso, you were fighting this, you were in Pennsylvania, and, it's your right leg, and energetically, that's why that happened. And I'm like, okay, well, I get what you're saying, but also too, the x-ray showed years. I've been doing this since 2006, so there's a lot of things energetically that have kind of come along the path, right? And this was kind of the catalyst to do this, where I needed the work. I mean, having the surgery, my inflammation has gone down. I've lost weight. I mean, so many changes, my attitude. We were talking earlier about how I kind of outgrew things. Like, I feel like I'm a different person. Like,
I'd like to posit something which might or might not be taken well by other healers. Healers have a tendency, light workers, healers, all of the above, have a tendency to try to fix and try to explain things away instead of forgetting. And it's an ego thing. It's a part of our egos are fragmented. We've forgotten who we are. And a part of it is that we're trying really hard to validate externally. So we're always trying to fix, always trying. I fell into this as well. I used to be like that as well. Mm-hmm. But at some point you become aware of the fact that your job is not to fix. Your job is to support and to be a conduit for. The individual themselves is going through their own process. It's not my place to come to you and say, your right leg is hurting because ABC, or you are this because you did that. Right. This is happening because that is not my place. My place is to come in and say, well, here are some options to support you on your healing journey. If that is going to work for you, great. If not, and I want to give you an example. I have a close friend who is potentially dying of cancer right now. When we met over her cancer. However, when we met, she came to me and made it very, very clear, I do not want you as my healer. I want you as my friend. Made it clear. Now, on my part, I had to tie my hands behind that because I could have done so much in those moments to support. And she had specifically made clear that she does not want. And one of the things along the journey, so I became a space for her to release and to talk and to experience. One of the things she would always talk about is how all of these people are coming in and saying, do this, and you need to do that, and this has to be like that, and the reason you're like this is like that, and the reason. And she's like, it's overwhelming. I don't want to hear it. I know these things. I already know where I am on my journey, and it's my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that was eye-opening because I had to watch from the sidelines, and she is choosing her journey. She is choosing whether to heal. She's choosing whether not to. She is choosing to consciously die. She is choosing, to live. She is making those choices.
Sure.
And my role is to be present. That is it. And as a healer, our role is not to fix. We try so hard to fix everything. That's not it.
Right. And I think the understanding too is when you are the healer that's injured, I know my path, and I knew that this would make me a better teacher. It would make me a more conscientious yoga teacher because I knew the discomfort in my body. I knew, okay, well, guess what? I can be hyper aware of someone who's struggling and show them a variation of something to make this accessible, because a lot of people that come through the door for yoga, whether it's something that's already a passion, they've been around, you get them like, well, my doctor said I need to exercise and they told me yoga, and they're very scared, and they'll see things online that somebody's twisted themselves up into almost like an acrobat act, a circus act, and they come in very scared and they're like, I can't do this. And I'm like, guess what? Neither can I, and I'm the teacher. So that's pretty bad, isn't it? So let's figure this out together. And then that you can see like, okay, give it a try. Yeah. And so I provide a safe place for them. And even if they're not able to take the classes I offer, then that gives them confidence to go to that other class that may work for them to continue, because movement is medicine. And you see all these things online and it's like, whoa, I can't do this. But yes, there's another way. There's another way. We'll find another way. So I think it has helped me. And I felt as a young teacher, I was told by a professor when we had our, going into our core classes in education. And she said, you'll find when you become a mother, you're going to be a better, more conscientious teacher. And I found that to be the truth also. Yes. So I felt in my journey, even though I did all the things, so my pain level was very low. And the doctor had said, surgeon said, like, I can't believe you're touching your toes. I can't believe you're not limping coming in here. And he attributed to it. And I'm like, but how? How when yoga was the cause of the injury? He said, but this is helping you. Just trust me on this. And yeah, so I get people all the time when they hear, oh, you should have healed this and you should have done that. And I'm like, listen, I've been doing all of these things and there was a reason this had to happen. And I knew the purpose. And, I worked on myself to be able to confidently go in there and get it done. And I didn't have any of these experiences that I read online that they scare you with. You go on social media and you have the diary of it and you're like, oh no. And like, and it didn't happen. I didn't need the drugs to numb me on it. I just took a Tylenol, and this was 2 days after surgery.
Yeah. Well, and so I want to share a little bit more of my story, if I may, because I think it's relevant to the conversation. Yeah. I walked a dark night those 5 years.
Yes.
And when I started walking that night, what happened was that all of my guides, all of the voices in my head, all of those whoever's I was talking to disappeared. They stepped back. And 5 years later, about a year and a half ago now, I went outside and had a reckoning with the universe. I was like, dude, I have walked the fire. I have gone through hell. I have held my ground through it. I have stayed strong. I have found avenues. I have kept moving forward. Where are you? And of course, sitting against a tree, you're healing because you're in nature and, you're releasing and you're grounding and all of this. And one message came to me and it said, we've always been here. but you had to walk that path for yourself, to know it for yourself and to become it yourself. Shortly afterwards, I went off to the woods. I spent about 33 days hiking in the Appalachian Trail, healing, releasing, bringing back, myself, alone, solitude, that time by myself. Screaming, yelling, crying, having out with the universe, near-death experiences, all the good stuff that came along with it, and reconnecting to self and remembering the power of self within, as well as the tiny, how small I am in the power and the vastness of nature. And coming out of it, came into the Institute, but coming out of it, I came out a different person. I went into that dark night knowing about universal law, knowing about, natural law, knowing that we're in some kind of an artificial system, not understanding what it was. I came out of it being one, being the awareness of source, being source. I came out of it where before it was like, I could woo, make magic, to now like magic is me. Period.
Yeah. Right.
So for every aspect of the journey that you or anybody in the audience is going through, everything is leading to something. There are no wrong turns. There are no wrong directions. And that which you are connected to the most, for you, it's the yoga, for me, it was the universal law.
Yes.
That will also be your trigger and your pain point into your power.
Right.
That's what it does. That's how it works.
Right.
How do you know it if you aren't it?
Right. And you had shared that you are call yourself an atheist, and my journey.
Then, yes. Then.
Right, then.
Yes.
And I remember a time in my life where, I had questioned, where was God in all of this? And my mom is, she would be a very hardcore Christian. We could color her that. And she had said, think about this. This is a test. When you were in school and there was a test, the teacher was quiet. And that's what's happening. God is the teacher. He's quiet because you're going through a test, but he's there. The presence of the teacher was in the classroom, and God is there.
Do you remember what I'm sure I think you and I are close to the same age.
Yeah.
Do you remember that footprints in the sand?
Yes.
That is what.
Yeah. Footprints in the sand. Yeah. We always used to have a card of it. And my husband always had a little joke. And he said, yeah, I don't have footprints because God was just dragging me. He said, it's just so long.
That's awesome. That's
so
awesome.
yes, it is a long.
Yeah.
So that's my husband's version of it. So in your 30 years, your 3 decades, what has surprised you about working with energy?
That magic is real. That and I say that in the most serious of contexts. The work that we do at the Institute, this is consciousness studies. This is education in the awakening process. This is the healing of the self, to reconnect yourself to source. When I was 17, learning how to see energy for the first time, or learning how to read cards, or, learning telepathy. I used to have a friend that, like our rule was to think about each other. You have to call within 10 minutes. It's like a hard rule, we would, it went from something where it was like, whoa, that's crazy cool, to, and I know this is going to sound crazy to some people, so I apologize for the craziness, but this is where we are in the path. Miracles are so real that I can bring rain, I can move clouds, I can bring wind, I can get all of the information I need from the trees.
Sure.
And there is no disconnect. So when somebody comes to me and it's just like a overdose in India, I can immediately connect in, bring myself over to them and perform surgery or support them in their process.
Oh, yeah.
Foo. I've never lost a client. And I've worked with so many. Foo. And the reason is because miracles are real.
Absolutely.
That was whoa. And to be clear, when I started this process, the reason I had to learn a lot of this stuff, because I didn't believe those psychics. I didn't believe those healers. I needed to know for myself to believe that stuff was true.
Yeah. Probably as you stand in your life right now and look back, you may have those little hints, right? Like the magic 8-ball, right? The Ouija board, the light as a feather, stiff as a board as a child, right? I was the one that went over to all the book sections.
and my mother's pulling me away and she's like, don't look at that stuff, So there were signs along the journey here. And just like you, I went from one thing to the next and, went through the cards and the classes and all of those things. And then you just get to that point. I remember seeing a meme where it says like, we'll use the example of like a tarot reader. It said beginner, and it had all their crystals, it had all their cards, it had all their little, crystal ball, and then advanced, and it was a cigarette and a cup of coffee. So
right there.
That's where we are, right? So it's part of the journey.
Yeah, because you embody. At some point, you go from the learning to the embodiment.
Absolutely, because I was started off with cards, and I actually said about a week ago, I'm like, you know what, maybe I should get rid of my cards. And my daughter my daughter's like, how do you know this stuff? I said, I can't even tell you. I just know it. It comes through dreams. Someone will tell me something, and it's a feeling, and it's like, yeah. It just is there. I don't have to rely on that. And I don't want to call it a crutch, but it was necessary for me to take the steps. Same way the Reiki was for you to get where you need to go. So, anybody's listening to this, Reiki can just be that stepping stone on the journey to help you.
Yes.
To where you are meant to go to change the world, right? Yep. Be that teacher, right? Of heart and service. Yes. So someone who has this curiosity, has this call within them, wanting to move forward to enter this profession. Do you have any advice for them?
To enter the profession or to enter the world?
I would say enter this type of work, because many people feel the calling. Now let's move on as you as a business owner. Like, let's go on to, many people are in the closet with doing this. They're too embarrassed, like, to tell people they're doing light language, and too embarrassed that they're reading tarot, because there was at a time that like tarot reading was like the stigma, like, you don't tell anybody we're going here, right?
Well, so I'll tell you that I work with clients and healing clients, and I work with students that I've trained into becoming healers and starting their own businesses and doing their healing work around the world. And the profession itself, the first step, I have two things that I tell my students as they begin to grow into it. And then that is what we work from and forward. One is take the step. We are so profoundly afraid of taking the actual step that we hold ourselves back, and we jump between teacher and coach and coach, trying to learn visibility and trying to learn marketing strategies, trying to learn this, trying to learn this. And we're not actually posting the post, doing the live, sharing the video, preparing and marketing the course or whatever that is. So the first thing is take that step. The lesson that I learned, I said this earlier, and I'll say this again for just in case for those in the back that might not have heard, right? The power is in you, and it's not you creating your power. It's you being your power. When you know who you are, it stops being scary. But when you're still finding your balance within it, you're going to play around. When I came back into this world about a year ago with the Institute, everything I had built 10 years previous, the healing business, the coaching, dozens of courses for everything from Reiki 1 to advanced accelerated healing techniques, and training in between, natural, all that stuff I've taught and trained. I've got courses on. All of that stuff is child's play to what it is now. Yeah. But because I took those steps, we are now in the space that I can develop a profoundly structured academic-based institute on consciousness studies and healing.
Right.
So take the step. Number 2, dude, nobody cares if it's perfect. And not only that, tomorrow, if you change direction tomorrow, nobody's going to care. It's fine. You do you, find your path. It will align. When I started this institute, again, after having been kicked out of Facebook, kicked out of social media, my website was taken down, shut off the internet, removed completely from the internet, all my videos gone. I had to start from scratch, and I had to prove to the world that I existed. Even though I've been here for 30 years. And you know what I did? I shot that direction and that direction and that direction and that direction and that direction, that direction, that direction. And today I had a strategy call with Melissa, one of my first students, who started, by the way, Christian girl, started with the pendulum to learn how to trust herself. And now she is so advanced. It's astounding. We just sat there, we were like, Substack. Great. Facebook, time to shut it down. Not working.
Yeah.
This, great. We're about to start a publishing house.
For you.
A week ago, I wouldn't have thought about starting a publishing house.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're allowed to shoot in any direction you want. At some point, you're going to find your path, and it comes.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about an ever-changing world, is that you have to have the ability to shift. And it was making me think of a story about Tupperware. Tupperware is not doing well. Why? Because it's so reliable, right? That it puts itself out of business. So you need to shift and change. My business is so different from what it was 6 years ago, but I'm different from 6 years ago, even a few months ago. And I'm finding that as I'm growing, some of my offerings, I don't feel I need to offer those anymore. And so I'm kind of letting those go to the side, and the universe is kind of handling, here's your purpose. This is the direction here. Here's your true north. So that's the thing. I see so many people that have 20, 30, 40 certificates, and then someone else who just has the one, like, I don't need it. And they have the confidence and they're out there doing it. And then they're getting frustrated, but I'm this, I'm that, but you're not doing. I know you have 25 different certificates. I know you're highly educated. You have a master's degree in this. You need movement. Yep. And that's the thing. You got to just take that step. And if anything, social media, since there is no real vetting on, YouTube and things, everybody's on there. On TikTok, everybody's on there. They're doing all kinds of things. And it's like, okay, there you go. Find your place and land.
I got to tell you something, because I've been off social media for so long. I have a kid, my son's best friend, who is actually opening a TikTok account for me and starting TikTok for me right now.
Yeah.
Never touched it before in my life. I have no idea what to do there. And he's just like, let's go. Just like, okay.
Yeah.
Fun. Just shooting in all directions and having fun with what comes.
Yeah.
Very, very fascinating. But yeah, that's what you said also about those certificates. I think that is so important. External validation is something that we depend on for our own ego self. Mm-hmm. And who you are, it doesn't matter the certificates that you have. I share with nobody what certificates I have, because it's honestly, if you're coming to me because you want a certificate, you are not coming to me to heal. You are coming to me for something external. If you are coming to me because of the work of who we are and what we can do, then you're coming to heal. Yeah. So yeah, know thyself and you will flourish, even if it's not flourishing in the way you're expecting to flourish.
Oh, right. Because I was in that part too, where I was like collecting all of these, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because it mattered only to me. Do you know what I mean? Because you could have somebody connect to someone on energy. Like, I just feel comfortable with this person and this, and then you're looking with that person's not ethical and all these other things. And it didn't matter. That student, that resonated with them. So, yeah. Yep. So what books do you recommend?
Okay. So a lot of books, but I'm going to start with my all-time favorite author. Okay. This is the guy that got me from the beginning of my healing journey, my learning journey and my studying journey, all the way through today. I still go back to him. Paulo Coelho.
Okay.
Have you heard of Paulo Coelho?
No.
Oh, Paulo Coelho. So this guy came up. He has written, I have no idea how many books he's written. Let's say 15. Let's say. What he does is he takes powerful concepts of spirit, God, spirituality, whatever these concepts are, and he brings them into, generally speaking, except for one of his books, into fictional form. And then he translates these into works where even a 5-year-old could understand. So Paulo Coelho, I think, I don't remember what my first book with him was, but I remember reading The Pilgrimage. It was a book by Paulo Coelho called The Pilgrimage. And what he had done, he got in a lot of trouble for it, is he was in his own little, I don't know, I think it was like a Catholic based, like, spirit, like mysticism, type of thing.
Sure.
And he went on the pilgrimage and he shared all of these different exercises that they did throughout the process. I read that book. I was like, I'm going on the pilgrimage. I'm doing those exercises.
All right.
I did those exercises. They grew me in manners astounding. I went on the pilgrimage. It grew me in manners astounding.
Wow.
Paulo Coelho has written everything from The Alchemist, The Pilgrimage, by the River Piedra. I sat down and wept. That is a life-changing book. all about the feminine aspects of divinity and of source. Through that, I actually, one of the things he would talk about a lot in that book was Mary, Mother Mary, when responding to God with her story of her own son and having to practically sacrifice your son, thy will be done. Right. And in thy will be done, I learned to let go and to trust the process. So Paulo Coelho, any book by Paulo Coelho, pretty much across the board.
Okay.
Paulo Coelho.
Yeah. I had a yoga student. She was in like a bookstore and someone came up to her and said, you have to buy this book. And it was The Alchemist. And she gave it to me. So I have it. So I need to read it. I have it on my little table here of books to read.
The Alchemist is how I learned how to bring wind. That was that in that book. It wasn't, I don't think they actually taught how to bring wind, but that this kid just kind of like disappears into the wind and appears somewhere else. And I was like, oh, well, I can do that. And then I learned how to bring
wind. Told her it was life-changing. And she said, here, I have a present for you. So I've had it. Yeah. So I'm going to take a read to it. So it's fascinating.
Cool. Yeah.
Very fascinating.
Yep.
So what other services do you offer? Do you offer classes, events, trainings?
Yes. So I need to share that the way we work is this is not a business per se of the work that I do. Yes, people can come to me for health consultations and for healings and mentorships and things along those lines. But the work that we do is we are an educational institute that are supporting the collective awakening process. What that means is that there is so much stuff that we offer for you to come and you pick what works for you. We have free courses. We have academic-based articles on everything from energy healing to Plato and the cave to natural therapeutics. Literally, we offer a suppressed library of hidden books from thousands of years in the past to the present, and it's growing every day because it's just me adding at this point in time. And I've got a list of about 500 books, and we're at about 100 at the moment. Right. We offer all of these paths to support you into your awakening process. And what we've done is we've actually mapped out both the architecture of the matrix system so that you understand what you are within yourself and your freedom, how to step into your sovereignty, but more so, most importantly, the path of the awakening process has been mapped out for you. So most of us kind of get stuck in that awakening of this, what's called the spiral, the chaos, pulling in information in all directions. The world is falling apart around us. Reality is becoming nothing that we thought it was. And we're just like, what do we do with ourselves? I literally, on a silver platter here, I've created a free program for you to learn. Wow. Free. There's nothing more to it. So the work that we do is the awakening process. And if you want, you can come in for business things as well, services.
Beautiful. So where can we find you, whether online or in person, if we're interested in connecting with you?
Absolutely. So the website is the first and foremost space, iHolistica.com. I'll have the link for you as well. And you have in there, you can join in the membership aspect of it, and you have access to all the courses and all of the writings and all of that stuff. The membership this is what I was saying earlier, protecting the knowledge. This is protecting the information from the censorship and suppression. That's why we do a membership. It's not to sign up for something or subscribe. It's literally protecting you and protecting the knowledge. I am on Substack, Safra the Healer on Substack.
Beautiful. Well, that ends the first part of our journey. I'm going to guide you into the second part, which are questions from social media and from Reiki students. This one was a popular one. Number 1, can you explain base 10 and base 12 consciousness?
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful to be able to answer this question, because that to me is the essential of all of our awakening process. Let me start with base 12. Base 12 is your sovereignty. That is our natural matrix system, which basically means the natural coding of creation in our universe. In the base 12, you're going to be talking about, I might be going a bit deep, so call me out if I am, but you're talking about how basically that law of one becomes physical manifestation. So how does pre-thought become pre-matter, become matter? That's going to be your base 12. What does that mean? This is your natural pattern of creation. Base 12 geometry, base 12 patterns. 12 being the number divisible by 12, multiplied by 12. If you think about it like the Buddhist mandala, the mandala is 108 beads on it. That's a multiplication of 12. No. Our distance from the sun is going to be a multiplication of 12. The amount of seconds in the day, 12. That's base 12. Natural And this is where we are sovereign, connected to source, one with source, knowing who we are. Base 10. The 12 itself is a whole circle.
Yeah.
Base 10 cuts off. That's going to be your immediate cutoff. It's kind of like you get to the 10 and there's like a cliff that stops and you start back at 1.
Okay.
Base 12 is going to be your cycle. All right. So when we look at natural seasons, cycles continue and they go on and they go on and go on.
Right.
If we look at our calendar year or our time, our man's version of time, it stops at December, starts in January, resets.
Right.
That's base 10. This is a control-based system, which basically has been, you could say, established over us for us to believe is what is real. And what it does is it conditions our minds to believe that we are separate from self, from others, and from source. So base 10 is going to tell you that it's me versus you, or I and you, not I am you.
Right.
Base 12 is I am you. Base 10 is I and you. And what it does is it keeps us in a system where we are subservient, pretty much without realizing it. We want to believe we're free. We're not.
Right.
Our minds are broken. When I say our minds are broken, what that means is our egos believe that we are that identity that it creates of who we think we are.
Right.
When you are in base 10, I am Safra, I am a healer. I am Safra, I am a teacher. I am Safra, I am a farmer. I am Safra, I live in rural Virginia. That's my identity. That's how I show myself to the world. In base 12, I am. Hard stop.
Right.
So base 10 is going to be your control based and where our egos rule our entire sense of self and identity. And that's where, when you're talking about starting a business and you're having a hard time taking that first step, it's because you're still stuck under that base 10 mind frame of I need them to validate me rather than I am.
Right.
Period.
Thank
So
you.
I hope that kind of gave it good.
It does.
Overall.
Thank you. Number 2, after nearly 3 decades of working in holistic healing, what is one practical tool that you recommend for grounding?
Every single time I work with a client, every single time I get into a conversation, right before you and I talked, I do this. I have a couple of things I do, but I'm going to share one part of it. It normally only takes 30 seconds for the whole process. From my first chakra, I drop a golden cord down into Gaia. I take my conscious and visualize it going down into Gaia as well. I drop that cord down in through the soil, the sand, the sediment, the water, the empty space until it reaches right there in the center of Gaia, the heart center of the world. And right there, I will shout out release 3 times in my mind. I will shout at the top of my lungs, release, release, release. And all of the external energy, all of the overwhelm, all of the unnecessary energy, all of the fear, all of the anxiety, I allow it to drain out of my body and into Gaia. And Gaia will take that and transmute that energy into whatever she wants. Because energy never destroys. It just shifts and transforms and transmutes.
Oh, law of conservation. Yeah.
That is the absolutely perfect way for you to get grounded. I do it in 15 seconds. You can also do that in 15 minutes, however fast you want or however slow you want.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Number 3, what is your hope for the future of holistic healing?
It's not a hope, it's a knowing. We're stepping into it. My hope for the future of holistic healing is that we remember who we are, because holistic healing is a natural part of being who we are.
Yeah.
When you know thyself, you see the medicine around you. Yesterday, I pulled valerian root from my garden, because what is valerian? It's the best sleep tonic out there is what valerian is. I don't need to go to a pharmaceutical place to pick up something to help me. My hope is that we awaken to the truth of who we are, because that will reconnect us to self, nature, and source, and our holistic healing naturally follows.
Beautiful. Well, that was our last question. As we've been talking, is there something you may have forgotten or something you want to share with the listeners? The floor is yours.
Well, I just want to say thank you for all of you out there. When you take a moment to stop looking outside and turn within yourself, and one of the things that I do every morning before I get out of bed is I just take a few minutes with myself. I bring myself into my heart center. How am I feeling today? What am I doing today? How am I going to experience today? Today might not play out like that, But when I take those moments to feel into myself, what I'm doing is beginning that step into reconnecting to self. As you do this every day, more and more and more, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, you're going to be finding that you're going to be turning within a lot more than you're searching outside for your truth, for your power, and for your sovereignty. So turn within. You got this.
Well, thank you, Safra, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to take this Ready, Set, Reiki journey with me.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, audience, for being here and learning and growing.
All right, beautiful. All right, my beautiful listeners, if you would like your question featured on Ready, Set, Reiki, reach out, www.readysetreiki.com. Find also on social media as well. I'm Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.